England have lost here. They've lost by 8 wickets. They've lost before lunch on the 4th day, on beautiful sunshine, perfect day for cricket. But having won the toss and chosen to bat first, this is clearly a very disappointing result indeed. And in fact, I'm going to stop right there because Joe Root is coming over to come and have a chat with me. He's going to talk into that microphone there, so we're socially distanced. Well, Joe, where do you start with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's not been our best week, has it? I think we've massively underperformed. Credit to New Zealand, they've outplayed us throughout the game, and it's a tough one to take because fully thought at the start of the week we could come here and win the series, and in all departments we probably could have been a little bit better if we're being brutally honest, but dust ourselves off, pick ourselves back up. We've got a lot of cricket still to play this summer, a lot of exciting cricket as well, and we're a talented bunch of players, so we'll definitely come back stronger.
You'd have seen, I'm sure, or read or heard various comments about batsman's technique and so on, particularly at that top order. Is that something that you will look at? I mean, do you agree that there are some unusual batting techniques in England's top order when you compare it to like the very straightforward, simple techniques of your opponents?
All I'd say on batting is there's no right or wrong way to bat. You look at some of the best players in the world and none of them bat the same. They've all got different techniques, they've all got different styles, but they've all got a very clear way of how they want to score the runs. They've got a good balance between defence and attack. They manage situations well, different conditions well, and I think more than anything that's what we've got to look to improve on. We've got to make sure that we recognise what the dangers are, we know where we're going to score runs, and we can make good decisions under pressure for long periods of time. And ultimately I think that's the art of Test batting, and it's something that we've just got to be a little bit more consistent of. You look at this series so far, there's been a couple of really good performances. With Battle Rory was excellent for the majority of the series, which Dan Lawrence has showed his class. A couple of good starts from likes of Popey and that, but ultimately we've got to be more consistent and we've got to look to do it for longer periods of time, and that's how we're going to be a better side and a more consistent team and make bigger scores. And New Zealand they've schooled us a little bit on that this week, and you've got to learn from your opposition time to time. Whether it's a technical thing or not, I'm not necessarily sure. I think mindset wise, how we approach different things is certainly something that we can maybe be a little bit smarter at.
As far as planning is concerned, for this big year, and we've been talking about it since you went to Sri Lanka, for goodness sake, maybe that's part of the issue. Is this a spanner in the works? I mean, are you going to go away and reflect on the squad of players and think, are these players the ones who are good enough to go to Australia?
Look, we've got 5 more tests, and that's right at the back end of the year. There's a lot of cricket to be played between now and then, and ultimately that's a decision that we've got time to make. So the fact of the matter is the general core of this group of players has been the same for a good while now, and there's been some good performances within that. So I think it's not a time to panic. You look at previous tours when we've been to Australia, we've had massive overhauls going into major tournaments, whether that be one-day cricket, major series like the Ashes, like India. We just got to stay calm, stay relaxed, and trust what we've been doing for a long time now. And I think that's going to be really important.
And when you see Trent Boult running in and bowling, he went back to New Zealand, he quarantined for 2 weeks there, he saw his family for 5 days, he's caught a flight back, he's come here and he's played in this Test match. And you see Chris Woakes and Sam Curran playing for their counties rather than playing here. Does that irritate you?
It's the situation we find ourselves in. That's out of my hands to a degree, and ultimately we've just got to front up to these games with this squad of players. There's definitely the talent in here to win a series, and it's just frustrating that we've not managed to follow that through.
And between now and India, it's a long time, that Test series, 2 rounds of championship cricket, which not everyone will be involved in. I think most of the batsmen will be involved in. What are you going to do in that time? How are you going to make the most of that time? Because there's T20 cricket, there's 100 leading up to that Test series and so on. How are you going to try and make sure the Test squad is in the best shape before India?
Well, I sort of alluded to it when you spoke about the technique side of things. I think a lot of it's mental, and I think having clarity in how you want to play is and how you're going to deal with different situations is really important. So I think actually, you can do a lot of your batting without actually facing any deliveries. I think it's understanding that side of your game, and it's not an inexperienced team. There's a good number of Test matches behind our batting group now, but it's still a relatively young team and the guys that are still learning their way, and we've got to learn fast because we're playing Test cricket, absolutely, but there's still plenty of learning that can be done. And as I mentioned, if you marry that with the talent that they've got and the ability they've got, you could see some really big scores by the back end of the year.
I'll ask you a left field question, you might not be interested, but World Test Championship Friday, two fine teams. You got any thoughts on who you'd fancy to win that?
I think it's going to be a fantastic game, as you say. Two brilliant teams. They cover all bases. I think both sides. It's going to be a fascinating watch. I'm looking forward to watching it, and good luck to them both. With us playing India later down the line, it'd be interesting to have a look and see how they line up in English conditions.
Thanks for talking to us, Joe.
Cheers, thank you.
Bye-bye. So there we go, England's captain, Joe Root, and so some interesting thoughts there. Here comes Matt Henry, I think, wandering around. I don't know if we're going to catch him or not, which is all a bit interesting down here. It sort of comes and goes. Here he comes, coming to talk to me. Hello, Matt Henry. Jonathan Agnew, nice to meet you. Well bowled.
Oh, thank you very much.
Well bowled. How does that feel? You're clasping a medal.
Great, yeah, no, absolutely great. Yeah, no, it's just great to obviously get that series win. It's a long time coming. We've had a series win over here, so to be able to do it like that today was just brilliant. Yeah.
You have got a really good team thing going. I mean, that's clear from sitting up there 100 yards away.
Yeah, I think that's probably been the foundation of our success for a while. We've had this group's been together for a long time, and I think when people come in, they fit straight in and they're able to just express themselves. And I think there's that confidence when you do come in here and have that opportunity that there's no expectation actually just to enjoy your cricket. And I think from there it's really bred some great results.
Is it still really special for a New Zealand cricket team to come here to England and to win? We've got Jeremy Coney up there, of course, who celebrated his great series win those years ago, and yeah, he's pretty emotional up there. It really means something.
Oh, massive. I mean, any time you get to come play Test cricket in England is it's as good as it gets, really. I absolutely love it here, and I think all the players share that same feeling as well, and we know how hard it is to beat England in their own conditions, and this definitely was one of those moments. I think we obviously came over here to win the series, and we knew that it was going to be tough. We were going to have to fight well and use our squad as well. Obviously we were pretty unlucky with a few injuries, and it was a lot of changes, so I think that's just probably testament to the squad, and I suppose the trust and knowing what we need to do to go about our work.
Man of the match here, prospects of playing on Friday I mean, you put your hand up.
Oh, look, mate, whatever happens, but I think it's just one thing at a time. I think we'll just enjoy this moment, I think, to like you said, win this Test series, and then we've obviously got that final coming up, a very short turnaround, so no, look, it's obviously great to play your part.
Well bowled again. Thank you, Matt. Very much. Nice to meet you. Right, we carry on with our podcast, shall we? Michael and Alistair up there, I think, in the commentary box. What did you make of the Joe Root discussion chat?
Well, he wants to try and put a positive spin on a loss. He'll be disappointed. He'll know deep down that his team have just not been good enough. The fundamental basics of playing at this level require skill, discipline, mental toughness. They haven't shown much of that over the course of the last 2 weeks. It would have been 2-0, Aggers, in my opinion, if it hadn't rained at Lord's. New Zealand are a class team. They're a high-class team. What do? They cover the basics for longer periods. With the bat in hand, I agree techniques aren't everything in Test match cricket, but it does worry me that, a New Zealand top seven just look like they're stiller on the release of the ball. They play straight, and more importantly, they read the situation better. So when the ball's swinging around, you feel that the New Zealand top seven really do work for their off stump, play nice and late, don't go looking for the big drive. But when the ball stops swinging, that's when they take on the shots. Whereas I think the England team, and they've been doing it for a while, if we're totally honest, they just keep playing. They play the same way. So if the ball's full, they drive the ball. They don't really work out that the ball's swinging, and now's the time to believe in the ball, and that's a concern with the batting lineup. Of course, Ben Stokes, Josh Buttler, Jofra Archer, Chris Woakes will add to the team and improve them, but New Zealand changed their team by 6 players this week and have absolutely hammered England on a good pitch. The pitch has been tremendous. It's been a really, really good Test match cricket wicket, and let's not forget that they've decided over the 2 games in dry conditions in the UK to go with no spinner, a frontline spinner, and that for me is a concern. That the think tank, we talk the technical side, the mental side, but the think tank, I think, have got it wrong as well over the course of the 2 games. Not playing Jack Leach, would he have made the difference? Would they have won? Possibly not, but it's just thinking about the game correctly in these conditions, and I don't think England have done that. Will he get the team together, and will they have a chance of bouncing back? Yeah, of course, because England are strong at home, but I do worry, if England continue to play on these kind of wickets, which they should if they want to prepare themselves properly for Australia, it could be a long 5 Test matches against India. What I wouldn't want to see is them to panic and suddenly prepare green tops for the likes of Anderson and Broad to have a field day, because this batting unit, if they're going to have any chance of winning down under, have got to get used to getting big scores. And if you prepare green tops, they're not going to get anything, and they'll end up going down under with no confidence whatsoever. So they have to stick to this policy of playing on these kind of wickets, but they've obviously got to play a lot better.
Alistair, you've been in that Joe Root position a few times, facing the questions and so on. What did you make of what he had to say about the current situation? I thought he was quite honest.
He was, and the big thing for me was, recognising his mental. He's been very honest there, and I'm seeing a side of batsmen. Now, I don't know if this is a fallout from India, like the after effect, the hangover when they collapsed a lot under, tough conditions, spinning wickets where, there were 100, I don't think they got 200 apart from the first innings of that tour, whether they've just lost all their confidence. What I've seen in this batting lineup is when the pressure comes on, the intensity of Test cricket, the scrutiny of it, they can't handle it. So yes, they've got quirky techniques, but these techniques have made them score a lot of county runs and at times scored Test runs. Burns has got 200, so has Sibley, Pope's got 100. We know Joe Root's class, so you almost have to exclude him from this kind of conversation. But when the pressure comes on, mentally they aren't handling it. They are not handling it. They're not making the right decisions that you need to do. So they have to be honest with themselves and speak to people about it. I think it's a massive area of concern for me that they are underachieving at this level, and I think it's in between their ears.
I suppose inevitably he said, "Don't panic," more or less, didn't he? We're not going to panic, or words to that effect. So, but they've got some decisions to make, and it is this really strange situation now in which that India series doesn't start until the first week in August, and we've talked about the county cricket structure up to then, the championship cricket. There's a sort of a half a round and then a full round. Most of the batsmen will get at least one game in that time, but that's 3 weeks before the Test match starts. I mean, being absolutely honest about it, you two. I'll just start with Michael. I mean, that's not the sort of preparation that England's Test team needs right now, is it?
No, but preparation, I think, I'm with Alistair, needs to be between the ears. I think they can do a lot in between the ears. I was strong in India when they made the changes, having gone 1-0 up in the series. I said at the time, and I'll go back to it, and I'm going to keep going back to it this year, I believe that's when the Test match team started to be dismantled. You don't muck about with Test cricket, Aggers. England last year, they beat the West Indies, beat Pakistan, they go to Sri Lanka 2-0, they play great. You go 1-0 up in India, and all of a sudden rotation, swapping and changing. Again, the think tank. Go back to that day-nighter, that pink ball game. England played one spinner on an absolute beach.
Yes.
So you can't tell me that the think tank's working correctly. It's not working correctly. And I believe in Test match cricket, you've just heard Matt Henry say. Matt Henry said, this set of players have been playing together for years. That's why they're a quality Test match team. England had a team that had won in South Africa, beat the West Indies, beat Pakistan, won in Sri Lanka, and all of a sudden ripped it up. Why weren't they rested for the T20 series in India? Why is Owen Morgan suddenly going to play a T20 series against Sri Lanka with pretty much his full strength team once again? In an era where after 2019 we got told by the ECB that the next thing on the agenda was winning in Australia. It was all going to be eggs in the basket for the Test team. I haven't seen it, Aggers. I haven't seen the eggs in the basket of the Test team. I'm seeing once again the eggs in the basket of the T20 team, the white ball team. And fundamentally, if you muck around with Test cricket, I'm afraid it brings inconsistency, and that's exactly what we're seeing.
And Alistair, same question for you, really. I mean, if you were one of England's top order batsmen here, and you look at the cricket that's coming up to prepare you for a Test series against obviously a very strong bowling attack, would you be happy with what you've been scheduled?
Well, there's nothing you can do about it, so you can't moan about it. You can't then use that as an excuse. You are, as a player, totally responsible for your game. So it's down to you. It's down to you to go and sort whatever issue you think you might have out, whether you think it's technically you need to change, or whether you want to go hit millions of balls or hit 10 balls between now and August, whenever that Test match starts. Whether you want to go and play T20 cricket at 100, you've got to make your mind up. This is how I'm going to prepare myself so you are ready for that first game against India, and it's almost another step up against, in a long Test match series and against India. So they've got to go away and they've got to front up to the challenge. And it's exciting as a player when you've got challenges like this, because if you overcome it and you you start to deliver the results and where they come as a batting lineup, it's a great feeling, and that's what sport can do, challenge you to do it, and the guys have got to go and do that.
Yeah. Again, question for both of you. It's always easy to obviously throw the players under a bus in a situation like this. But what about the coaching? What about those who are suggesting these techniques or coaching these techniques about which people have been critical of? I mean, should they also be looking at themselves, Michael?
Well, I believe the player has to take responsibility. I'm a firm believer of that you are the person that's going out there to face the deliveries. You've got to work out. You don't survive at test match level if you don't know your own game. You can't just always be getting out, going and speaking to the coach, what happened there. Well, if you can't work out where you're making your mistakes and what you're thinking at that time, I'm sorry, you shouldn't be playing test match cricket. So you can have a finger point at the coaches and ask why are they allowing players to go out there with certain techniques. I personally just look at the players. The players have to be better. That batting lineup this week, did I see it really challenging New Zealand? Yeah, I did actually. I thought they won the toss, the pitch was okay, it wasn't doing a great deal. They should have got more than 303. I thought they did well in the field eventually to bowl New Zealand out for 388. They just kept going and going with the wrong attack. And then in the second innings, as Alistair mentioned, it's when they're under pressure and you judge players at this level when the pressure's on. Can your game and your mentality withstand the pressure button of the opposing team or the scoreboard situation which England found themselves in the second innings? And we have to be honest that this test match batting for a long period, it's not just been this year, it's been for a long while. When they're under pressure and when the pressure button's pressed, technically, mentally, a few question marks are always asked, and that is a concern because look, I love cricket, I love watching cricket, and I've been so used to in our time and in the last 10 years of watching England play, particularly at home, very well. Very rarely do we get beat in English conditions. I do remember the 90s when teams would come, particularly Australian teams, I guess the West Indies in the 80s, would come and have glorious summers and dominate test match cricket against an England side. I fear that may happen. I honestly fear, Aggers, if England don't brighten up and learn quickly. You've got to remember this Indian side are high class. I think from pound for pound, India are probably a better team than New Zealand. Do I think they'll beat New Zealand next week? Possibly not, because they've not had the preparation that New Zealand have had. But pound for pound, I think they are a better team. And England, if they don't get better quickly, this could be a very long summer. And then you go into an Ashes down under where, we all know what's happened the last couple of times. And unless England get some confidence and find some form before there, that could be a long winter also.
Just waiting to see if we get a chance to chat to Tom Latham or not. He's just had his photograph there taken, raising the trophy and so on. I'm making eye contact with the media liaison fellow here. We've got the clock is ticking really as to how we can do. We'd love to hear from the New Zealand captain. What a moment there. And actually it's nice that Kane Williamson, who didn't play today, of course, allowed Tom Latham the chance to lift the trophy. Well, how's that, Tom? Congratulations. How did that feel?
Yeah, it was fantastic. Obviously a really good performance over the 4 days, and I think the way we set up the game on day one, the way we bowled in that first session, even though we didn't get the rewards, I thought the way we came back out in that second session and bowled really well, without stating the obvious, obviously bowled really well yesterday as well. But yeah, obviously a fantastic team performance all round, and certainly very happy.
And to beat England at home, I mean, regardless of standards, if you like, but just the fact that New Zealand touring England and winning a series here is still special.
Yeah, it's very special. It's such an amazing place to come and play cricket, and it was well documented. We haven't won here since '99, and for us to come here and play well at Lords, but obviously the rain got in the way there. But to come here and put a good performance on the board was really pleasing, and obviously guys being rested and a couple of injuries, it was nice for those other guys to get their opportunity too.
And for you personally, I saw Kane Williamson there, he put you in the middle, you held it up, of course, you hit the winning runs as standing captain. How does that feel? Yeah,
it's obviously very happy. It's certainly an honour to captain the side. As I said before, there's a lot of leaders amongst this group, and it makes my job a lot easier leaning on those guys in different situations. So thoroughly enjoyed the 4 days.
Can't celebrate too hard because you've got a big game coming up. Now, how do you feel about that? I mean, you've had such brilliant preparation, haven't you?
Yeah, the preparation's been outstanding. We couldn't have asked for anything better. In terms of our focus was these first 2 Test matches against England, and now our focus can shift to India. So the preparation's been great. We'll celebrate the achievements that we've done tonight, and then we'll focus on India in a couple of days.
What do you think is their particular strength? I mean, if they're a terrific all-round team, aren't they? I mean, they haven't had the preparation that you have had. Does that give you a bit of a head start, do you think?
Yeah, look, I think they're a quality side. They've played, they've played in these conditions not long ago, and their bowling attack's fantastic, and they've got a lot of great batsmen certainly throughout their order. So it's going to be an exciting game. It's obviously a little bit unique in terms of a one-off Test match. So it's going to be an exciting week ahead.
And just last thought, but all your crew should be fit, should they, for that?
What's that, sorry?
Or they should all be fit for that. Kane Williamson will be fit and so on.
Yeah, hopefully. Obviously the guys will go through the fitness test they need to go through in the coming days. But fingers crossed, we'll all be good to go.
Right, congratulations, Tom. Thanks for talking to us. Appreciate it. There we go. Tom Latham, then New Zealand's acting captain. Absolutely delighted. He was there on the podium, and Kane Williamson stood to one side, allowed him to lift the trophy, and he hit the winning runs and everything else to boot. So he's had a really good day. Michael Vaughan, the clock's sort of ticking a bit. Sort of last thoughts from you about where England go from here, really, and what do they do? It's a long time until this Test squad meets again.
Well, they'll have to make a change or two, Aggers. I worry about that top 3. I look at someone like David Milan. Could he come in about number 3? They'll have to make a decision on that. Rory Burns obviously stays. Dom Sibley, did they see him, kind of playing a long time in Test match cricket? Is it an opening partnership that can be completely bowled to? So you're never putting any kind of punch back into the opposing bowlers. Crawley, I know he's had a difficult time. Could he open and be that player that goes a bit more aggressive at the top of the order? I'd stay with Ollie Pope. I know he just looks a play, but he keeps getting out for 20 odd. But I would stay with him at 6. Then obviously Butler, Wokes. So they look better obviously when Ben Stokes and Butler and Wokes come back in. But I would personally start looking at someone like David Milan, who played well in Australia. He had that 100 in Perth. They say, he's not a great teammate. I'm not bothered about that because I don't care what he's like. Just I want someone at 3 who can score runs. So I'd be looking at someone like him. I just want to bring someone. Kane Williamson's a class out. I've watched the presentation, and Kane Williamson just had 10 minutes talking to Haseeb Hamid. I could see exactly the conversation. They were talking about batting. Kane Williamson is driving this team. He's the man behind this operation. He's the person that's driving the game plan. Everything about New Zealand cricket is a class act. They're probably lacking a world-class spinner. If they had one, I think they would be right up there with the best teams. But it really is down to the operation of the lead. I know he's not played this week, but he is a class act.